name is Bulo, and it's good to have you join us in this module on specific learning differences. As we will see later on, 20% of the population, so also your students, have a neurodiverse condition, although the vast majority doesn't know it. That's why it is so important for language teachers to understand this. This module is part of the Empower for Digiline project, where we work to support adult education language teachers in developing their digital competencies and confidently using new technologies in their teaching practice, so also for the neurodiverse students. During this part of the MOOC, we will explore several key areas. We will start by looking at what neurodiversity is. We will be looking at the main signs of dyslexia, ADHD, and autism in language learners. We will talk about equality, equity, and justice in education. And we will look at strategies to make our classes and materials more inclusive for neurodiverse learners. So let's go ahead and start by looking at what neurodiversity actually is. Let's begin with a simple but powerful idea. Not every brain works the same way, and that's perfectly okay. In this video, we'll look at the concept of neurodiversity and how it relates to language teaching. We'll explore the conditions that fall under this umbrella, why so many students remain undiagnosed, and what all of this means for your classroom. The term neurodiversity was first coined in the 1990s by Judy Singer, an Australian sociologist who is autistic herself. She introduced this concept to challenge the traditional view that there is one normal way for a brain to function, and anything else is a problem. Neurodiversity shifts the focus from disorder to difference. It tells us that brain differences like dyslexia, ADHD, or autism are not errors, but natural variations in the human population. Just like biodiversity makes ecosystems more resilient, neurodiversity makes classrooms and society richer and more creative. So, what kinds of differences are we talking about? The most commonly discussed conditions under the neurodiversity umbrella include dyslexia, affecting reading, spelling, and sometimes speaking, ADHD, related to focus, impulsivity, and hyperactivity, autism, affecting communication, social understanding, and routines, dyscalculia, difficulties with numbers and mathematical thinking, and dyspraxia, challenges with motor coordination and planning. Some people also include Tourette's syndrome, auditory processing differences, and others. In education, many of these are grouped as specific learning differences or SLDs. Estimating how common these conditions are isn't easy, and here's why. Each country uses different criteria for diagnosis. Some countries do a lot of screening in schools, others almost none. In addition, not everyone seeks or receives a diagnosis. Still, we do have some estimates. Dyslexia affects around 10 to 15% of the population, ADHD around 5 to 7%, and autism around 1 to 2%, but possibly higher. Dyscalculia and dyspraxia are less well studied, but may affect 5 to 6% of people. It's important to note, these are not rare conditions. You likely have several neurodiverse students in your class, diagnosed or not. Let's take an example. In the UK, dyslexia is widely recognized and many schools screen students early. In contrast, in other countries around the world, the term may not even exist in the official educational framework. Cultural attitudes, access to specialists, and training for teachers all play a role in how visible or invisible these learners are. So while the biology may be similar across countries, the diagnosis rate can vary dramatically. Now here's something many teachers don't know. It's very common for students to have more than one condition at the same time. This is called comorbidity. For example, over 40% of students with dyslexia also show signs of ADHD. Many autistic students also experience anxiety or have language processing issues. And a student with dyspraxia may also struggle with dyslexia or ADHD. These overlapping profiles make teaching more complex, but they also make it more important to move away from labels and towards understanding individual needs. Now let's talk about the huge number of students who are never diagnosed at all. According to a 2019 article by the BBC, 80% of dyslexic children go through school without ever being identified. That's 4 out of 5 children. And it's not just dyslexia. ADHD, autism, and other differences are often missed. especially in girls, multilingual learners, and students who are very quiet or well behaved. Without a diagnosis, these students are left to struggle in silence, or worse, to be misunderstood. So, what happens when a student with an undiagnosed difference falls behind? Well, too often they're labeled as lazy, unmotivated, or disruptive. But in reality, they may be working twice as hard as others just to keep up. So, when a student doesn't meet expectations, we need to ask why, not jump to conclusions. This brings us to the language we use. You may have heard terms like learning disorder, learning difficulty, or learning disability. These are still used in many countries and legal systems, but many educators and advocates now prefer the term learning difference because it's more accurate and far more empowering. It shifts the focus from what the student can't do to how they do things differently. Now let's look at something many teachers don't see: the emotional toll. Students who are constantly misunderstood, unsupported, or compared to others often begin to believe there's something wrong with them. That can lead to low self esteem, school anxiety, depression, and even refusal to attend class. Neurodiverse students are statistically at much higher risk of mental health problems, not because of their condition, but because of the way they're treated and the environment they're in. The good news is you can make a difference. By learning to recognize signs of neurodiversity, adapting your teaching methods, and seeing your students' strengths, you can help create a classroom where everyone can thrive. Not every student needs a label, but every student deserves understanding.